We were two broke guys in our early 20s, backpacking across Europe like we had something to prove. Couch surfing was our ticket. Cheap, spontaneous, and always interesting. Usually it meant a bunk bed, bad lighting, and long talks with some hipster hosting for karma points. But this one was different. Her name was Lisette. 50, maybe a few years older, but carried herself like she had no intention of ever being invisible. She opened the door with a cordless phone pressed to her ear. She held up a finger and mouthed, "Come in." I glanced at Kevin. He raised his brows, half smirked. We stepped in. The house smelled like cinnamon and something else. Perfume, maybe. Expensive. The living room was modern. Clean. Too clean. Like no one really lived in it. She ended the call with a flirty, "I love you, baby," and then turned her attention to us. "Welcome, boys. Sorry about that. That was my boyfriend." "Well, one of them," she said, grinning as she locked the door behind us. I laughed awkwardly. Kevin, always the smooth one, just nodded. "I like to keep things exciting," she continued, walking ahead of us, hips swaying just enough to be noticeable. "I hope you don't mind staying with a sugar mommy. I take good care of my boys." That phrase hung in the air like a bad smell. She turned sharply. "You're both cute," she said, giving Kevin a little once-over. "You sure you're just here for a place to crash?" Yeah, I said, stepping in. "We've been traveling non-stop. Just need a roof and some sleep." She murmured. "I'm sure." She led us to the kitchen, then poured us wine without asking. We politely declined, but she kept sipping from her own glass like it was water. Then came the photos. Lisette pulled out her phone and started showing us picture after picture of her boys. They all looked like they were in their 20s. Tan, gym bodies, chiseled jaws, taken in places like Bali, Dubai, Paris. One guy had a collar on. Another had his head in her lap. Kevin tried to laugh it off. "They your sons?" he joked. "Oh, honey," she purred. "They call me Mommy, but not the way you're thinking." She swiped again, and something weird happened. One image, a close-up of a passport. Not a selfie, a full scan of a passport page with some guy's details. The name was American. The photo looked familiar. One of the same guys she just showed. I caught Kevin's eye. That was the moment it stopped being funny. "I didn't mean to show you that," she said, quickly backing out of the image. "Some of them live far away. It's easier if I manage their documents." "Cool," I said, flatly. "We're actually pretty beat from the train ride. Mind if we head to the room?" "Oh, I'll take you myself," she said. Kevin froze. She walked us to the guest room. No windows, but a clean double bed. She pointed to the bathroom, then leaned on the doorframe. "I'll make you breakfast in the morning. Bacon, eggs, maybe a little something sweet," she said, running her tongue over her bottom lip. Kevin gave her a thumbs up, like he was in a cartoon. She finally walked off. We shut the door. "Dude," I whispered, "we're leaving now." "It's midnight," Kevin replied. "If we bolt, she'll hear. And did you see the deadbolt on the front door? From inside only. She locked it." I paced the room. "You saw that passport thing, right?" "Yeah. And those guys, they look like us." "I don't think she's just a cougar with bad boundaries. She's got something going on, and I don't want to find out what." We agreed to sleep in shifts. One person on the bed, the other in the chair, wedged against the door. No one said the word or blackmail, but both of us were thinking it. I let Kevin sleep first. He snored within minutes. I sat upright, wide-eyed, watching the doorknob like it might twist. At around 3 a.m., I heard soft steps outside the room. They paused. No knock, just breathing. I tensed up, heart pounding. The handle jiggled gently. I cleared my throat loudly, like a warning. The breathing stopped. Then footsteps again, fading down the hallway. I didn't sleep. At dawn, I woke Kevin and we packed in silence. The floorboards creaked like they were trying to alert her. The kitchen was empty, but her wine glass was still on the counter, lipstick mark fresh. We unlocked the door and walked out as quietly as we could. Just as we stepped off the porch, we heard her voice behind us. "No goodbye?" she asked from an upstairs window, her hair wrapped in a towel. Kevin gave her a wave without turning around. "Thanks for hosting," he muttered. We power walked to the end of the street before bursting into nervous laughter. "What the fuck was that?" I asked. "Dude, I think we almost got trafficked. Or murdered, or seduced, or all three." The whole experience was totally weird. This story is inspired from a real-life incident which happened with one of our subscribers. This is what he said. "A few years back, my friend and I tried couch surfing. We're both big guys, so we usually feel safe. We arrived at this older guy's place, maybe in his 60s. He opened the door, still on a call, ends it with, 'I love you,' and then welcomes us and says it was his girlfriend overseas. He starts bragging about having multiple girlfriends and shows us pictures. At one point, he even showed a passport pic by accident. It felt off. We said we were tired, and he led us to the room, rubbing his belly and saying he'd cook breakfast. My friend slept against the door just in case. At sunrise, we packed up and left quietly. The whole experience gave us the creeps. Still does."
I met Derek at a dive bar in Chicago. The kind with sticky floors and neon signs that flickered like they were on their last breath. He was tall, with a jawline that could cut glass, and eyes that promised trouble. I was nursing a whiskey sour, bored out of my mind, when he slid onto the stool next to me. "You look like you're running from something," he said, his voice low and rough. I laughed, thinking it was just a line. I had no idea how right he was. We got to talking, and I asked him if he liked to travel. His face twisted like I'd asked him to eat dirt. "Travel is a scam," he said, leaning in close. "The Earth's flat, you know. All those pictures of foreign places, CGI bullshit, and it's dangerous. If you go too far, you might fall off the edge." I stared at him, waiting for the punchline, but it never came. His eyes were dead serious, like he just dropped some profound truth. I should have walked away right then, but his confidence was magnetic, and I was tipsy enough to be curious. I called it a night soon after, but not before swapping numbers. A week later, I invited him over, half expecting him to show up with a tinfoil hat on. Instead, he showed up with a bottle of cheap wine and a body that knew exactly what it was doing. The night was electric, the kind that leaves you breathless and a little ashamed. He moved like he was claiming territory, and for a few hours, I didn't care how dumb he was. But when he started whispering about how the moon was a government hologram, I knew I couldn't keep this going. I ghosted him after that, figuring he'd take the hint. A month later, I was in Spain, a solo trip to clear my head. Barcelona was everything Chicago wasn't. Vibrant, alive, with streets that smelled like salt and citrus. I was sipping sangria at a rooftop bar, flirting with an athletic Indian guy named Vikram, when I saw him. Derek, standing across the bar, staring at me like a predator. My stomach dropped. "I'm here to keep you safe," he said when he cornered me later, his voice dripping with that same unhinged conviction. "Lauren, you don't know what's out there. The edge is closer than you think." I laughed and told him to f*** off, but he didn't. He followed me everywhere, through the Gothic Quarter, past Gaudi's wild architecture, even to my hotel. I'd see him lurking in doorways, his silhouette unmistakable. I told myself he was just a creep, not dangerous. But every night, I checked my locks twice. One evening, I was out with Vikram again. He was charming, with a runner's body and a laugh that made my skin tingle. Suddenly, Derek stormed in, eyes wild. "You're coming back to Chicago with me," he growled, grabbing my fist. Before I could react, his hand was around my neck, squeezing just enough to make my vision blur. Vikram tried to intervene, but Derek shoved him into a table, plates crashing to the floor. "She's mine!" he screamed, like it was some kind of property. Vikram dialed the police. They hauled Derek away in cuffs, his voice echoing as he screamed about conspiracies and edges. I thought that was the end of it. I was wrong again. Back in Chicago, I tried to move on. Vikram and I kept in touch, texting flirty messages that turned into late-night video calls. He was in New York for work, and I planned to visit him, maybe turn our spark into something more. But Derek wasn't done with me. I started getting texts from unknown numbers, pictures of me in Spain, at the bar, on the street, even one of me sleeping in my hotel room. My blood ran cold. How the hell had he gotten that? I changed my number, moved to a new apartment, but the texts kept coming. Then, one night, I came home to find my front door ajar. My heart pounded as I stepped inside, the air thick with the smell of cigarette smoke. Derek was sitting on my couch, a knife in his hand, twirling it like it was a toy. I told you, Lauren, I'm keeping you safe. The world's lying to you. I'm the only one who sees it, he said, his voice calm but deadly. I bolted for the door, but he was faster. He grabbed me, pinning me against the wall, the knife pressed to my ribs. You think you can run from the truth? He hissed at me. His breath was hot on my face, and for a moment, I thought this was it. Derek, you're right. I've been blind. Tell me about the truth, I said, forcing my voice to soften, though it trembled. I leaned into him slightly, my hand brushing his arm, trying to hide my disgust. He blinked, caught off guard, the knife loosening against me. You actually want to know? His voice cracked, desperate for validation. Yes, Derek, I lied, nodding slowly. I trust you. Let's sit and talk it over. I guided him to the couch, my mind racing. He sat, still clutching the knife, but his grip slackened as I leaned over. I swallowed the bile in my throat and kept all my eyes locked on his, faking a smile. You're different, Lauren. You get it. He murmured, his free hand reaching for my face. Yes, I do, Derek. I whispered, his breathing hitched, the knife dropping to his lap. I hated every second, but I needed him vulnerable. Derek, you're so strong. I cooed, my voice sickeningly sweet as I kept going, feeling his guard drop. You've been protecting me this whole time. He groaned, eyes fluttering, completely lost in the moment. My chance was now. With a sudden, brutal grip, I squeezed his balls as hard as I could. He yelped, doubling over, the knife clattering to the floor. I didn't let go, my nails digging in as I screamed. Promise me you'll leave me alone, Derek! Swear it, or I'll rip them off! He whimpered, tears streaming down his face. Okay, I swear. Just please stop! His voice was high-pitched, pathetic, nothing like the predator he'd been moments ago. Say it again, Derek! You'll never come near me! I shouted, tightening my grip. I swear, I'll never bother you again, please! He sobbed, curling into himself like a scolded child. I shoved him off the couch and he scrambled to his feet, clutching himself, tears and snot mixing on his face. You're crazy! He wailed, stumbling toward the door. Get out! I roared, grabbing the knife and brandishing it. He bolted, crying like a baby, the sound fading as he disappeared down the hall. I collapsed, shaking, the knife still in my hand. I locked the door, checked every window, and called Vikram, my voice breaking as I told him everything. He promised to fly to Chicago the next day.
I remember that trip to London like it was yesterday, even though it was back in 2018, right after I graduated college. I'd saved up for months working as a barista in Seattle, dreaming of backpacking through Europe on a shoestring budget. My plan was simple: cheap flights, hostels, and living off street food. But then I got a message from my old high school friends, Sarah and Emily, who were doing their own Euro trip. "Hey Rick, We're in London for a week. Meet up? Sarah texted. I was in Paris at the time, so I hopped on a budget train and met them at Victoria Station. We hugged like we hadn't seen each other in years. Well, it had been 2 since we'd all scattered after school. Sarah, with her wild curly hair and that infectious laugh, was studying abroad in Madrid. And Emily, the quiet one with the killer photography skills, had just quit her job in Chicago to find herself. Me? I was the adventurous one, or so I thought, hauling my ratty backpack everywhere. Dude, you look exhausted, Emily said, eyeing my rumpled clothes. Let's find a place to crash. Nothing fancy. We're all broke. We scoured the internet on Sarah's phone for the cheapest hotel near King's Cross. Ended up booking this dingy spot called the Regent Inn for like 50 quid a night. It's got 2 single beds, the listing said. Perfect for us, I replied, figuring we'd make it work. The clerk, this grumpy old guy with a thick Cockney accent, handed us the key without a smile. Room 204, up the stairs. No refunds. The room was tiny. Barely enough space for the 2 beds pushed against the walls, a rickety nightstand, and a window overlooking a noisy alley. The carpet was this gross mustard yellow, stained in places, and the bed sheets looked like they'd seen better days. This is cozy, Sarah said, dropping her bag with a thud. Emily flopped onto one bed. At least it's central. We can hit the pubs tonight. Being the only guy, and one who'd roughed it in hostels before, I volunteered to sleep on the floor. You 2 take the beds. I'm fine with my sleeping bag between them. They protested at first. No way, we'll rotate, Emily insisted, but I waved them off. Come on, I'm used to it. Plus, you both get carsick on trains. You need the rest. We laughed about it, unpacking our stuff and planning our night out. That evening, we wandered Soho, grabbing fish and chips and sneaking into a dive bar where some local band was playing. To old friends and new adventures, Sarah toasted with her pint. We shared stories. Sarah about her Spanish fling, Emily about quitting her soul-sucking office job, me about getting lost in the Louvre. I swear I almost cried when I couldn't find the exit, I admitted. You're such a drama queen, Emily teased, but her eyes were soft. By midnight, we stumbled back to the hotel, buzzed and happy. I unrolled my sleeping bag on the floor, the carpet scratchy under my hands. Night, ladies, I mumbled, crashing hard. The girls giggled for a bit before dozing off. The next morning, all hell broke loose. I woke up to Sarah shrieking. Oh my god, what the fuck are these? She was scratching her arms furiously, red welts popping up everywhere. Emily sat up, bleary-eyed, then started itching too. She pulled back her sheet, and there they were. Tiny black bugs crawling on the mattress. Bed bugs. Dozens of them. Fat from feeding all night. Holy shit, I said, jumping up. My sleeping bag was clear. No bites, no bugs. But the girls, covered. Sarah had them on her neck, arms, even her legs. Emily's back was a mess of angry red bites. This is disgusting! I feel like they're crawling in my hair! Sarah wailed, stripping the bed. We inspected everything. The mattresses were infested, seams bursting with eggs and bugs. How did you dodge this? Emily asked me, half laughing, half crying, as she scratched. Lucky floor sleeper, I guess, I replied, but I felt awful. We stormed down to the front desk. Your room's crawling with bed bugs. We want our money back, I demanded. The clerk shrugged. Not my problem. You signed the waiver. Sarah lost it. Waiver? We didn't sign shit about bugs eating us alive. We argued for 20 minutes, but he wouldn't budge. Finally, Emily pulled out her phone. Fine. We'll blast this on TripAdvisor and call the health department. He grumbled and refunded half. We grabbed our stuff, itching like crazy. The girls, anyway. I helped them bag everything in plastic from a nearby store. Seal it tight. We can't let these hitchhike, I said. We found a laundromat and washed our clothes on hot, and then crashed at a pricier hostel with actual reviews. For days, the bites plagued them. Sarah's swelled up bad. She slathered on cream from a pharmacy. I look like I have chicken pox, she moaned over tea in a cafe. Emily photographed the welts, for memories. This is what travel's about, right? The horror stories, she said with a wry smile. Her name was Dana. We dated for 9 months. When it ended, she didn't move out, just drifted upstairs, took the guest bedroom, and stayed. She cried, said she had nowhere else to go. I believed her. That was my first mistake. Over the next few years, years, she nested up there like a raccoon with a meth problem. The upstairs became her territory. I never went up unless I absolutely had to. She had her own bedroom, bathroom, and a door that stayed shut like a warning sign. She brought in a rabbit, a fat gray lop named Smokey. I didn't mind at first. I even liked rabbits. But it didn't take long before I realized Smokey was more of a prop than a pet. When she went home to Arizona for Christmas, she asked me to check on him. No problem, I said. A week of food and water duty, easy. What I walked into was something else entirely. The upstairs looked like a condemned squat. Food wrappers, stacks of dishes, half-empty energy drinks lined up like a cracked-out soldier's memorial. The bathroom smelled like rotting cosmetics and wet towels. The floor stuck to my shoes. Smokey's cage was small, too small, and overflowing with weeks of piss-soaked pellets and hardened droppings. His nails curled under like claws. I stood there frozen, the stench closing in around me. And yet, I cleaned. I built a bigger cage. I gave that little guy clean water, fresh lettuce, a soft towel to lie on. I didn't even tell her what I saw. That was mistake number 2. When she got back, I told her, calmly, that I'd cleaned up, that it couldn't happen again. She nodded, fake tears, soft voice. Of course, thank you, I love him so much. Bullshit, but I swallowed it. Months passed. Smokey got sick. One day, he was just gone. I offered to help take the cage down, but she brushed it off. I found the cage still upstairs 2 weeks later, full of dried rabbit shit. Then the bugs came. It started with a few ants in the kitchen. Then roaches. Big, slick ones that scattered when the light came on. I deep cleaned, sprayed. Nothing worked. A week later, I caught a whiff of something. Dead. Now my first thought was attic animal. Mouse, maybe a squirrel. So I checked the attic from the hallway. Nothing. The second attic entrance was through Dana's closet. I hadn't been in that room since Smokey died. When I opened the door, the smell hit like a slap. Decay and sweat and something sour. The floor was layered in filth. Blackened banana peels, mounds of clothes and underwear. Men's, not mine. Fast food wrappers with dried ketchup stuck to the walls. Sticky carpet. Bugs crawling through a half-eaten Big Mac. And in the corner, the rabbit cage. Still filled. Still reeking. I saw red. She came home later that night, tried to brush past me. You need to clean your damn room, I said, voice steady. She rolled her eyes. It's not that bad. It's a health hazard. Jesus, you sound like my dad. You need to clean it. Tonight. She didn't. And I, being the fool I am, waited. A few weeks later, I had to change the AC filter. I went back up. It was worse. New trash on top of the old. Mold on the carpet. The cage still there, growing some kind of white fuzz on the corners. I snapped. You're out, I told her when she walked in. By Friday. The sob story came quick. No money. Bad childhood. Nowhere to go. She cried, said she'd change. I didn't care. But Dana was petty. The day she moved out, I came home to find my bedroom door wide open. That door had been locked. She picked it, or maybe I forgot. Either way, she'd been in there. She left behind a surprise. Used feminine hygiene products, fast food bags, one of her dirty thongs tossed on my pillow like some final insult, and a handful of dead bugs smashed under a frying pan on my desk. I wanted to burn the house down. Instead, I deep cleaned. I fumigated. I ripped out the upstairs carpet and repainted the walls because the stains wouldn't come out. They'd soaked into the drywall. I found mold behind her dresser and something worse in her closet. 3 syringes in a shoebox, used, uncapped. I reported that to the police. I didn't know what she was using. They didn't ask much. I thought it was over. But then the mail came. Credit card offers. In my name. For accounts I never opened. Turns out Dana had done more than just leave trash behind. I don't know when, maybe while I was working late, maybe the day she moved out, but she'd gotten hold of my social security number. I kept a lockbox in my closet with all my documents. I'd never noticed it had been opened. Maybe I didn't want to. A week later, I got a call from a payday loan office in Kentucky. I'd never been to Kentucky. I froze my credit, reported identity theft. My credit dropped 120 points in 2 months. She'd taken out 2 store cards and tried to purchase a laptop under my name. I drove to her new place once. I wanted answers. I wanted revenge. But when I got there, I sat in the car and stared at the apartment building for an hour. A cracked screen door, yellowing blinds, kids screaming in the parking lot. I never went in. I just drove home. Sometimes I still dream about the upstairs, about the rabbit, about her laughing while she locked my bedroom door behind her. I wake up sweating. People tell me I should have known better. They're right. The machine was unassuming in construction, even smaller than I had imagined it would be when I had seen the prototype online. The reviews had been stellar, and all of the time tourists that had used it seemed enthusiastic to try it in other spheres of their lives where they had left less than satisfying memories. I was sure my life would change when I flicked the switch on. Still, my heart did not stop beating as frazzled nerves exerted itself all over my body. I dropped the coffee mug I held onto the table as gently as I could. I cussed nonchalantly, assessing the gray appliance with a fleeting glance just once. Then I flicked the switch, damning all consequences. The machine revved to a light, igniting an illuminating white glow that grew larger from the middle to form a portal. The temptation was instantaneous, and my skin tingled in disbelief. It was real, and it was working, I thought to myself as I took one step forward. The buzzing glow of light drew me in with such warmth that affected my senses. It was bliss. Pure ecstasy, if I had ever felt it. In one moment, it felt like a cocoon of warmth, and in a split second, it sucked me in with the harshness of glass shards piercing through my skin. I cried loudly, bent over with my hands over my ears and my eyes shut to manage the pain. Suddenly, the pain stopped. My beating heart intimated me of my immediate consciousness, and when I opened my eyes, I was in that familiar pink room with all of my things just the way I recalled them to be. The walls were pink, and the bed was neatly arranged. My life-size teddy was on the bed, just how I always placed it. What? I blurted in puzzlement. My stomach growled. I turned around to face the mirror on the wall, and there my image was, being myself again and 16 years old. I pinched my face, and it hurt. Ow! Honey? My mother's voice, tender and smooth, came muffled through the door. The hinge moved, and the door was open. My stomach sank when I saw my mother for the first time in what was an uncountable eternity. The confusion in my mother's eyes made me stiffen up, sniffling back on the tears in my eyes and the stinging snort in my nostrils. "Did you hurt yourself, baby?" my mom asked. "No." I paused, and my voice broke in surrender. "No, Mom." "Oh, Claire, you don't have to come with us if you don't want to." My mom followed up on the worried look on my face. "Your dad and I will be back before nightfall." I nodded my head. Realization hit me like a train to the midsection. In a lifetime I was familiar with, I had gone with my parents, and we had been attacked by a gun-wielding psychopath. I had escaped with my life, but the killer, Jonas Cornell, had butchered both my parents. I had been able to testify in his conviction, but that was a different lifetime. The horrors of reminiscing hurt my stomach, and I threw my body on the bed. Before I could turn around, my mom let out a sigh to leave me alone, and the door was pulled shut. From where I lay on the bed, I heard both my parents converse briefly before the car started up. The engine got louder as they left in a weird twist of reality until the crude noise drowned my senses. I shut my eyes briefly to stop the noise from the engine and the tears from my eyes. When I opened them, I was back in my room with the time machine in front of me, but everything else was different. The smell of rotten food wafted to my nostrils, and it gagged me violently. On the table, where I recalled I had dropped my coffee, a moldy slice of pizza was falling off. A bottle of vodka, half drunk, also occupied the table. I scowled in horror. What the F? I blanched, and my breath smelled like alcohol. My entire body numbed. And it was because of all things, I never drank alcohol. No. I jumped at the machine as a time tourist for another round of experience with tears in my eyes. My second course went by quickly, and, just as I expected, I was in the room again. I rushed to the mirror, following the routine unwittingly, and I pinched my face. Ow! I cried. Honey? My mother, almost in the same manner she had appeared those times, was back. Did you hurt yourself, baby? My eyes turned steely. I turned to her. You don't have to go, Mom. You and Dad. You don't have to go anywhere today, I wheezed, desperately rushing over to her and pulling her to the bed. She followed under my compelling pull to the bed. You don't have to come with us if you... I don't have to go! Neither you nor Dad have to go, I said, observing how my mom searched my eyes for any strange effects. I don't do stuff or alcohol or smoke, Mom! My father appeared from the door and poked his head through. He asked what was holding both of his favorite ladies up. My mom sighed and said I was acting strange. I grinned with relief when she took my side and mentioned the need to cancel. It's the game of the season, Margaret! Come on, you both... He slammed the door before he finished his statement and started into a rant. My mom tapped her hands on my shoulder and asked for a moment to speak to him. She left, but the noise only grew louder and louder until I could not contain it. I shut my eyes and opened them. And I was back in my room with a mysterious old lady cussing at me aggressively. Pure dread attacked her body as I watched that toothless mouth spew venom at her from the couch. The face was undeniably my mother's, but the bile was unrecognizable. She said I had let my father die, and I was horrible. She was angry. Angry that was intense enough that it made her old face red with heat. No, I hollered as my thumping heart racked my ribcage. I took another chance with the time machine, realizing there was only one way to live with my tragedy, and it was to accept my full story for what it was. I stepped into the time machine, and I was back in the room, rounding back to the mirror and pinching my face. I yowled, and my mother appeared. Watched the entire motion from my own body like a spectator, and the truth of the time machine struck me. It was not designed to change the past, as any change had its effect on the present. Either way was more miserable than the other. At least I had lived a more familiar one. The horror of knowing my parents would die on the way to the game, at the exact time it would happen, and the horrible villain who would kill them made me cry. But I relieved myself of the burden of choice, and simply enjoyed my mother's warmth for the last time, and my father's strength when he took a bullet to the stomach to give me enough room to escape the killer's muzzle. I broke the loop when I allowed things to be, and I was back to my room with the coffee on the table. My horrors finally ceased.